Hi, I'm with Scott Field, who's the General Manager for King's Swim Centre and here in Narre Warren. And maybe Scott, you can give us a bit of a background of the facility, King's in general, the business, and your role within that business.
Sure, Gary. Thanks. It's nice to be a part of your conference, even though I'm in cold old Melbourne and you're over in South Africa. King's is a privately owned swim centre. We specialise in teaching children how to swim. We developed from the mid-90s one centre, and in 2000 moved to two. We currently have 14 swim centres. 3 years ago we sold the business to the YMCA, and we continue to operate under the King's brand as a YMCA business. At the moment we teach about 23,000 kids every week to learn to swim. This facility we're in here in Narre Warren in the east of Melbourne was opened in 2001. I was involved in the opening as one of the owners and the initial manager at this facility. It's a 6-lane, 25-metre pool, 12 metres wide. It's about 330,000 litres, which is a small volume pool compared to many that you'll know, because our pools are shallow. We build them shallow so that young children can stand up and be safe in the water. I guess since it opened 12 or 13 years ago, we've seen quite a lot of issues with the pool. One of them is that we experience a high bather load here. At this facility we teach about 2,500 kids a week to swim, which means we have some fairly intense sessions. Most mornings here, weekdays, we'll have probably 100 to 120 bodies in the water, children and parents, and in the afternoon probably 300 to 350. They all happen in a fairly intense period of time. We don't have any swimming here in the middle of the day. It's a program pool, which means there's no casual swimmers. But when the program begins, we'll have 45 or 50 people in the water each half hour for a 3 or 4 hour period. Those conditions are replicated in all of our pools throughout Australia.
Scott, the pool here, I know from when we first got involved here, you were having a lot of problems with maintaining the water quality. What were you using and what were the main issues you had?
So the pool was set up with bulk chlorine, so liquid chlorine sanitises the pool. We also use CO2 to control pH levels, and at this facility we have a UV filter. UV treatment system and ultrafine filtration. That worked well when our bather load was smaller, but as we grew, we found that our chloramine count was getting up at times and the quality of the water wasn't what we wanted. So we're very interested in any alternatives that could give us a better product in the end, because our water quality is really important to us. We were fortunate that Murray Jones was actually a parent of some of our swimmers, and Murray, with his interest in water quality and swimming, got talking to us and started to tell us about the benefits of saltwater chlorinators. We probably thought about it for quite some time before we used this pool as a test case, and despite the fact we had bulk chlorine and CO2 to control pH and ultrafine filtration and UV, those things combined weren't quite meeting our requirements for quality of water. So we installed a saltwater chlorinator. The results have been very good. In fact, the results have been everything that Davey promised, and to me that's almost more important than being great results. They told us that we should experience an improvement, significant improvement in utilities costs, in electricity and gas, and that happened. They also said there will probably be some rough edges in getting settled down. That happened, and whenever there was a problem, Davey was out here almost before we knew there was a problem. So their backup service for us was very, very good. In terms of our staff and our clients, apart from the one day that we went from clean water to salt water, no one's even noticed a difference. I was saying to Gary earlier that we had some young children that were licking the water on the first day we put salt in, because they could taste it was different. But since then, swimmers haven't noticed, and our staff haven't complained about skin irritations that they sometimes did when our chloramine count went up a little bit. So in terms of quality of water, cost savings in terms of chemicals and cost savings in terms of power, the saltwater chlorinator has really worked for us.
From an environmental point of view, are you seeing much difference in the amount of chemicals that you have to store, in particular, of course, storing bulk liquid chlorine?
We're set up for bulk chlorine, and we still have that bulk chlorine tank, because since we invested in it, it still sits there. But it now sits there as a backup facility, so we don't rely on it. If ever we were to take the salt cell down to get it cleaned, or if ever for any reason it was turned off or it wasn't working, we've got liquid chlorine as a backup. The key difference for us now is that our purchases of chemicals is significantly reduced. Again, we did a lot of financial modelling before bringing it in, and again, the modelling worked. We had a payback period of a little bit over 18 months, and within about a month or two, the system has paid for itself with the savings that we've made. So the sales spiel worked for us. Everything that we were told has come through.
One of the things that a lot of people get concerned about with salt systems, they think of salt water. It's like seawater.
Yeah.
In terms of people noticing there's salt in the water, in terms of your equipment, have you had problems with corrosion, the pump room, etc.? This is a question we often get asked.
And it was a question that was put to me too. Our commercial plumbers, who we've worked with for a long time at all of our facilities, told us not to do this. They were quite adamant, don't go salt water, because you've got metal pumps, metal pipes, metal fixings, and it will corrode. And I was really concerned about that, and that was the reason for me taking a considerable period of time before we committed to salt water. Davey's took upon themselves to get independent corrosion testing for the first 12 months of operation. We tested before we put it in, we tested right through those 12 months, and there was no corrosion at all, negligible corrosion. So we have no impact on any of the metal parts, any of the metal pumps. Certainly in terms of the quality of water, our teachers who are in the water a lot and our swimmers who are in the water each week are very happy with the quality of water.
In the plant room, you've still got of course, you've still got your liquid injection available, you've still got the UV, etc. Are you finding you don't have to run the UV as much as you used to? You're still running the UV occasionally? Because obviously it's all part of an overall solution.
Yeah. I was saying to Gary earlier that if I was setting up a pool from scratch, putting in a saltwater chlorinator would not only save money and save recurrent expenses in chemicals, it would save a lot of space. The unit itself is so small that our building costs would be much reduced because we don't need bulk units for chlorine injection and CO2 and perhaps UV as well. Since we already had those things in this system at this pool, we still have them online. We still do run our UV, but the effectiveness of the UV, the requirement for it to be effective is much reduced because what it used to operate on to get rid of the chloramines in the water simply don't exist because the salt cell takes out most of them. If we have a particularly heavy bather load in the middle of summer, and we may have school groups come in, so the bather load really gets up to 600, 700, 800 bodies a day, we'll run the UV and it picks up its effectiveness just a little bit. But if you get a correctly sized salt cell on your system, I'd be very confident to run without UV.
So Scott, in general, do you think it's been a success?
There's no doubt it's worked for us, and I think this pool has probably offered some unique challenges to Davey. This pool is not a regular pool where you might get some members in a health club swimming or members of the public swimming. You can see right now, and we're at a little bit after midday on a weekday, there's no one in the water. And there will be no one in the water here until about 3 o'clock. But at 3:30, there'll be 50 people in the water, and another 50 at 4, and another 50 at 4:30. So our bather load goes from nothing to very high and then back to nothing. And that created a few issues, I think, for Davey, because they originally wanted to know how many people in the water per week, expecting a fairly flat bather loading throughout the week. And the way we initially set up worked in the quiet times, it wasn't working in the peak times. For us, the best thing about working with Davey has been that when problems have arisen, which they inevitably do, they've been terrific at coming out and helping us through those problems. We've resized the unit and made sure that it's working at greatest effect at our greatest period of need, and after a little bit of tweaking, we really have to touch it now. So it's great to have a set and forget system, and it's great to know that if anything goes wrong, at the other end of the phone are people that'll come immediately and help us out. So the after-sale service has been really good.
We often refer to this pool as the perfect storm. You know, it had everything you don't want to have to be able to try and maintain the sanitation of the pool. I think that what Scott's saying is that if you can solve this problem, if you can solve this type of pool, essentially you can solve almost any pool. Mm-hmm. And I think it's been a great success. It's great to have a partner like Scott and Kings, where we've been able to work together to achieve what I think is a fantastic result. Thanks, Scott.
A pleasure. Thanks, Gary.
It's been terrific.
Enjoy your conference.
Thank you.